Okay. Well, let's move on to the next one because this one's a perler.
Okay.
And as I say, we both attended the march. We both saw what we saw with our own two eyes. We won't go into it too much, but we can come back to it. But effectively, when I got home, I turned on Sky News and bang, this stuff was on live. And there's a panel here and we're about to hear from them. This is literally the evening of the march. And the guy on the far right, Joe Hildebrand, now, he wasn't there. We know it.
Okay.
He absolutely was not at the march. He wasn't on the ground. He didn't see anything in person. But he has some very strong opinions that we're about to hear about what happened at that march and the ideology behind it and the mentality of the actual people who attended it.
Okay. So we're at the march in Melbourne on the 31st of August. And these guys might be in Sydney, so to be fair, you're saying he wasn't at the Melbourne nor the Sydney march.
Oh, okay. So I thought he was commenting on the Melbourne march.
I don't know. I don't know if these guys are Sydney or Melbourne based.
I think the reason the Melbourne march got so much attention was because that's where the neo-Nazis were very prominent.
Very prominent.
The small number of them that were there.
They were made to appear prominent.
Yeah.
I was there on the day. I did not see them on the day.
No.
I know they were there because I saw footage of them, but...
Yeah, we didn't even come close to seeing anyone that looked like it. We did see three crazy people, and to be fair on them, they were trying to bust through the police barrier to get to Parliament House because they were sick of standing around for 2 hours, and the entire 100 or so people that were surrounding them told them, "Listen, we've got kids here. What do you think you're doing? This isn't on. This isn't what we're here for. Stop it," and they stopped.
Yeah, they stopped. Yeah. So it was basically...
That was it. It was about 30 seconds of we're going to Parliament House, and then they walked up to the police and got pushed back, and then they turned around and went somewhere else.
So apart from 30 or 40 or 50 Nazis who were, in my estimation, probably the 90% of Victoria's entire Nazi contingent cohort, it was thousands and thousands of middle-aged mums and dads with a bunch of kids.
Tens of thousands, literally.
Tens of thousands, okay. It's hard to tell when you're in the crowd how big it is, but there's many thousands.
Oh, when they did the aerial, you realise how many there were.
I didn't see the
I thought it was reported there were 50,000, but anyway,
okay.
There were a lot of people.
Okay, so I'm saying there was maybe 50 neo-Nazis at best.
Yeah.
And
where we were, there were probably more cops than protesters. We were on one of the barriers.
Okay.
But literally, we had kids, we had women, we had international tourists, we had an actual international student who was hanging out with us, who was a really interesting guy from Singapore, and he just come along to sort of check it out because he was studying psychology at Monash University, and he had some really, really good views, but none of these people were in any way feeling... The most threatening thing, in my opinion, was the police. Well, because remember when we had them all in their full riot gear, marching through...
Well, they looked like they were ready for action, but...
we had those big vans.
Yeah.
They were visible.
But they weren't. They were ready for action. But I won't say that they instigated any action.
Oh no!
They were very polite. They were friendly even.
What
they
I'm
were
saying
very
is
friendly.
The presence was, I'd say, intimidating.
Okay.
Being around that many cops, you kind of think, okay, this is not usual. This is something that I've never experienced before.
But
the actual people, I'm saying,
we'd heard messaging. Exactly, we heard messaging from
protesters, from
the politicians and the media that Indian people were told to stay home because of the presence of these neo-Nazis in this rally.
Not only that, they were. I think they were either too scared to go, or if they did, it was alleged that they were somehow vilified.
Okay, so at this rally, it was certainly majority, I guess you call them white people, but there was lots of people who are from different races.
Yeah.
And one guy in particular, Chinese Singaporean exchange student we spoke to, we said, "Oh, dude, this has been a great chatting for about an hour. Did you feel intimidated or scared to sort of come out on the streets today and actually join in?" He was part of the rally. He was effectively amongst the crowd that was part of the rally.
He wasn't allowed to leave.
He said, "No." No.
What about?
He said, "I love Melbourne. I love Australia. Everyone's cool."
We've even got footage of a lost Asian tourist, and she couldn't. They wouldn't let anyone out, and So basically, everyone appealed to the police's sense of reason, and then they helped her over the barrier, and she just trotted off on her way.
Yeah, and there are other tourists, I think they were South American, who were lost and found themselves in amongst this crowd. It's like, oh, guys, do you want to get out? We can ask the cops and they'll let you out. They said, no, this is awesome.
No, they just said, no, this is really interesting. We're going to stay here and check it out.
And then there was your two Irish mates on line bikes.
The two Irish boys on line bikes, and the police didn't want to let them out. And then we had to say, listen, these boys are from Ireland, for crying out loud. They're on bikes. They're just trying to ride around the city. And then finally the cop's like, okay, yeah, you can go through.
Well, my bet was that they were actually undercover feds, because what better cover to be a young 25-year-old male who's an undercover cop. Oh, I'm an Irish tourist on a line bike. Well, that's actually a really good accent. Good on you.
I literally think those poor blokes are just like gone for a ride around town, absolutely no idea what was going on, found themselves, just trying to get up to Burke Street, and because they were confused. They're like, oh shit, we don't know where we are. Where do we go?
So they weren't feds.
So anyway, no, I don't think they were feds. I don't think they were feds.
The highlight of folks being lost was the mum and her two daughters, who were probably 13 or 14, definitely from your part of the world in Brighton, trying to get to the Regent Theatre for the 2:30 p.m. matinee.
What about the other ones? We had these other Tommies rock up and like, oh, we've got a lunch reservation. We're going to be late. That was the anger. That was the anger that we witnessed at the protest. Oh.
All right. Shall we see?
All right. Well, let's just see. This is what we saw. So let's just see what the journalists saw who weren't there.
And by the way, the only violence today was from the pro-Palestinian.
Correct. They turned up and bashed a bloke up in Melbourne.
Such peace-loving people.
The more they carry on,
Who bashed up who?
Oh, so actually, that this lady is in support of the protesters. I don't know who she is, but she basically just said the only violence that I saw was from the pro-Palestinian protesters.
Okay.
Which we did see violence from them.
Did we?
Remember when there was a complete absence of police?
Oh, sorry, when they were accosting that lone fellow waving an Australian flag in their face.
A middle-aged couple, one with an Australian flag, who was waving the flag at them and aggravating them. But I don't think that's an excuse to physically assault elderly people. But
she was winding them up, but that's her right, I suppose.
The Palestinians took it upon themselves to physically assault these people, and
no, they weren't Palestinians. They were white kids from Melbourne Uni.
Pro-Palestinians. Sorry. Yeah, we should note too that from what we saw, there weren't really any immigrants or foreign people protesting against the anti-mass immigration rally, which was quite an interesting dynamic.
Can you say that one more time?
Well, it was an anti-mass immigration rally, not an anti-immigration rally.
Okay.
Yep. So within the crowd of the anti-mass immigration rally, there were people obviously of some sort of migrant descent.
What's migrant descent look like? We're all of migrant descent.
Okay. The generalisation is that it was just a load of white Australian racists with flags that don't tolerate people of it, and their objection to any type of migration is that the people are a different colour to them. That's the generalisation.
Okay.
And that's what's been put out by the media. That was put out by the media for the week up to the rally.
Okay.
But when you looked around the crowd, there were people that didn't fit that stereotype of just being white Australians. There were just all sorts of people.
I like to tell people that, love him or hate him, the most popular guy at the rally was a Jewish Israeli Australian. And we're supposed to be at a Nazi rally where the most popular guy is a Jewish guy. And he's there with his co-host, YouTube star, who's of Indian descent, so he's Indian Australian. Sri Lankan, I'm sorry. And the cameraman, I didn't hear him speak.
He was Chinese, wasn't he?
Who was Asian, obviously Asian extraction.
Sorry. Yeah.
So those three guys were moving around the entire rally, unmolested and actually supported and celebrated by everybody who said, we're not here on any race-based issue, we're here against mass migration, which I take that, from my point of view, I'm against mass migration, I'm pro-modest migration. And the only person who gave these three guys a hard time were the neo-Nazis.
And to be fair, I think Arby did actually approach them and stir them.
For sure. which he loves to do,
Yeah.
which doesn't give them the right to punch on.
It's not like the Nazis sought him out. He sought them out. But anyway, look, whatever. That was by the by.
He did sort them out, and he did go there to sort of poke them. That is for sure. That being said, they were very ready and happy to be poked and having Seuss to punch on.
Yeah.
They don't get a pass because he was trying to be a provocateur.
Oh no, not at all. I mean, nobody gets a pass.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm saying is that when we observed the pro-Palestinian or whatever they were, the people that had turned up, because as we said, what the hell has pro-Palestine got to do with mass immigration? There's literally no connection whatsoever. But this Purple Pingers guy, we saw him rallying everyone to come down because we've got to fight racism. And I would have thought that migrants who felt that they were being the victims of racism would be the ones that would be out in the street protesting against racism. But what we saw were just white, university-aged, I don't know, just normal, well, not normal, they were abnormal, but they were just kids, basically.
I think Purple Pingers and his ilk are actually global communists, and they'd like to abolish Australia as a state, abolish Australia with borders, abolish Australia as a cultural entity, and make the world a sort of a global communist utopia.
Well, it really felt to me that there was a pro-Australian march,
Yeah.
and an anti-Australian march.
Yeah.
It was. I don't think it had anything to do with immigration when you look at the two groups. Like one group of people were there because they wanted to stop mass immigration because they love Australia and they just want to make sure that our quality of life doesn't deteriorate as a result of poor governance from our politicians. The other group of people appeared to be there because they hate Australia, they hate what we are, they hate our way of life, and they object to anyone that flies a flag and says they're proud to be Australian. Would that be fair or unfair?
I think that's pretty. I think I pretty much agree with that. I think that. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I describe it as slightly differently, but I think we're talking about the same thing.
Okay, how would you just to give me an idea?
Well, they have a sort of a political and ideological goal of a global socialist / communist government, no nation states, and a common global communism. I think that's I've heard Purple Pingers on TV say that. He's like, the borders should be abolished.
Crazy. He's like, he's sort of saying, we've got this housing crisis that we've got to solve, and the best way to do it is just make sure that there's more people than there are houses.
Yes, but his answer to that would be that if there's a standard of living in Australia that is higher than other parts of the world, then there must be a great averaging.
Oh, we've got to bring the standard of living down to be the equal of somewhere like
no.
East or Pakistan or...
No. An averaging. So we'll come down, and according to his analysis, they'll come up.
And it always works that way when a communist government gets into power.
Yeah.
That's always how it works.
It's a little bit of a bold claim.
Historically, he's got a lot of evidence there that his theory is sound.
Oh yeah, he's never gonna look closely into sort of Stalinism or Maoism and say, it didn't work. You say, this time it'll be different.
Maybe he's looking at North Korea going, no, I can see they're all doing it. Most people there are doing it pretty well. The elites, they're not really living that great a lifestyle. All right, well, let's have a listen to these jokers.
Bashed a bloke up in Melbourne.
Such peace-loving people.
The more they carry on, Joe, can I finish? The more they carry on with, you're racist or you're neo-Nazi or whatever. I mean, do they not realise, Evelyn, that it just emboldens people to say...
Oh, sorry. Volume. Actually, hang on, maybe this thing works. Maybe not. It's just a little... Maybe my hearing's going because I'm...
You are opposed to me, an everyday Australian who has an issue with what mass migration is doing to this country. It's not about...
I don't know how to...
Okay, all right, I'll just listen carefully. So at the moment, this bloke's being the voice of reason, I think. But let's just see where this all plays out.
Realise, Evelyn, that it just emboldens people to say, you are opposed to me, an everyday Australian who has an issue with what mass migration is doing to this country. It's not about racism. The more you throw that word around, the more will become.
Well, look, it's not a mistake and it's not a coincidence that this is not just happening in Australia, but it's happening across the West. It was only today in the UK that they had similar protests. And so at some point in time, you have to say, maybe it's not conspiracy. Maybe people aren't making it up. Maybe people aren't racist. Maybe there's something real and legitimate as to why people are showing up and fronting at these protests. The logic of if a
thought process there for this lady.
few bad, actors at a sort of protest or rally undermines the whole cause. If we go based off that logic, then democracy is dead. Because all somebody has to do is dress in all black and be an extremist.
Sorry, I'm just saying that you could probably get to the end of what she's saying and go, okay, that's the argument. There's not really a counter-argument to that.
Well, I'd like to hear it.
Well, we're going to hear it. We're going to hear it. So it's a ripper. Let's go.
And show up at a rally, and then it undermines the whole message. And you're right, Holly, the message today was that mass migration is killing us. It's kneecapping us, which it is. And there's nothing wrong, Joe, with people acknowledging the fact that we are taking migration levels from India, from China, from all those countries at an incredibly high...
We've hit the nuclear bomb here. We've said the two words that we can't say out loud.
Yeah.
Let's see where that goes.
rate. And there is
singled out Indians specifically.
But it's true. But at what point?
If I can interrupt.
But you said it wasn't about race.
No, Joe. The point in pointing out India was not to cast aspersions on Indian people.
Who are here, assimilated.
It was to make a direct comparison on previous waves of migration and how many people came, and to simply say that in this wave of migration, there are so many people who have come from one country alone. It's not to cast aspersions on those people. It's simply to demonstrate...
Well, Joe will.
Well, Joe's... Oh, he can't wait. He's chomping at the bit to start... pull out their arm.
It is simply. I showed you before an Indian at that rally in Sydney today.
Like those pro-Palestinians making Australian
I'd like to see. You want to talk about a minority of Nazis being at the rally? I'd like to see what the minority of people who weren't white at that rally.
I'll bet you there were more than 30, which is. Oh, come on.
Stop. Roll the eyes. Can I just bring it back to what I said at the very start before this interview? He wasn't there.
But what point is he making?
Well, he said, I would like to see the number of people who were at that rally who weren't white. Well, you know what? We've got video footage that we can show you, Joe, that'll debunk your figure. And we were standing with probably 100 people, and you would have seen at least half a dozen that weren't white.
Okay, but what's that 6%? What is Joe saying that's different to that? Like he's saying that was a majority of white people who were at the rally.
He said
that's
like
true.
To see the people that weren't white. Wasn't that his terminology?
Well, okay, that's he's obviously he's leaning. He has a point of view, but he's not wrong about the numbers. There was a majority white rally.
Okay.
Not universally white, which I think is telling. That's a powerful thing in the sense that the people who are non-white who were there were not frightened to be there. And they were actually expressing a point of view that they agreed with the cause.
Yeah. I guess, look, the way I'm implying it with his tone and where he's coming from, and we'll see where he goes with this, is that it's bad that that there were white people there.
Okay, let's see.
Can I explain what Joe's doing? He's got his list of talking points from ALP headquarters. He's saying this is the Labor Party line. And he's pushing it really hard.
This is their own words,
well as he can.
This is their own words. The organiser called for violence. The person
there was not called.
Hang on, mate. Purple Pingers called for violence. Where did he get this information that the organisers called for violence?
Who are the organisers, for one?
Can we fact check that? Yeah, we don't even know who it was. Such a loose group of...
loose affiliated groups.
General people.
The Nazis did claim to be the organisers, but I don't think that was true at all.
Well, technically, the beauty of this protest and what we see in the UK and what we saw as the counter-protesters, is that it wasn't organised at all. It was really just put out there that if you love your country, just come to this city, to this part of the city with an Australian flag.
Yeah.
And we'll all just march to Parliament.
Yeah, and to presume that there's there's very visible sort of discernible structure where there's somebody at the top of the structure who is the organiser is absolute nonsense. I think that various groups within the pyramid said, we're organising, we're coming, so they organised their people, which is what the Nazis did. That does not make them the organiser of the entire protest. That makes them the organiser of their little 50-person component of it.
Well, I don't know about you, but I haven't got any direct line to Thomas Sewell or any of his mates, and I was there.
Okay, yeah.
So if he's the organiser, how did I end up there? How did you end up there? How did anyone end up there? How did our Singaporean bloody international student end up there?
Yeah, for sure.
All right,
absolutely. Did Art from Singapore get a message from Thomas?
So come to our rally.
And so, okay, so he's asserting there was an organiser and asserting that the organiser called for violence. But as you said,
He didn't assert it, he said it.
Sorry.
Sorry, what I mean is, he made a statement as if it was true. He didn't say the organisers may have called... He just said, the organisers of this protest called for violence.
Yeah, no, sorry. That's what Joe's claiming, right? And as you said, who is this organiser? The only organiser we saw calling for violence was the organiser of a counter-protest. The fellow was Purple Pingers.
And we've got it in writing where one of his followers says, yeah, like you say, we should go and punch a Nazi in the face.
So Purple Pingers were going to go fight these guys, and his follower said, let's go punch them in the face.
And when someone as pathetic as Purple Pingers is talking about fighting in the street, you know he's not doing it by himself. You know it's not going to be a fair fight.
Well, Purple Pingers as an individual is not a very frightening man, but his ability to organise a cohort of Antifa rats to actually affect the violence that he might be calling for.
He's kind of the most least charismatic person in the world. The fact that people listen to the guy is incredible. But anyway, I'm not guessing.
I actually disagree with that. I think Purple Pingers is kind of a cool cat. I think his ideas are completely bonkers.
You think he's cool?
I think he's interesting.
He's a complete dork.
Yeah,
anyway, sorry.
But the dork shall inherit the earth.
All right. I'm being unfair on Pingers.
Yeah,
Pingers, you're cool. I guess that if I was your age, I'd aspire to dress and look and act and talk.
I'm not saying he's... Well, maybe I'm saying he's cool, but I saw him go on Sky News last week, or before the rally, or whenever it was, and he was talking about housing. And in that interview, he revealed that he wanted to abolish Australia as a nation state and abolish borders and blah, 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 basically implying a global communist utopia.
An anarchist.
So no, less anarchy, more global communism.
Okay.
And
sounds a lot like a sovereign citizen, though.
So I disagree with his ideas. I think they're bonkers and they're dangerous, and they're going to end up causing, if he ever had any power, he will cause a lot of pain. That being said, he was on with some scummy, smug, not very intelligent Sky News host who thought she was peppering with him with all these insightful gotcha questions, and Pingers was just batting him away, cool and calm and intelligent. I was like, yeah, good on you.
It would be hard not to be able to discredit his ideas, because they really do have a lot. Like, as I say, I just threw a question at him and he blocked me. Simple question. But anyway, let's get back on track. Let's see what Joe has to say here.
Today, and there was no violence.
Just stop for a second and let the rest of the panel say something.
Say something accurate.
He was
say something
pretending
true.
that there's one organiser. There wasn't one organiser. There were a number of groups that organised this. One person might be an extremist. She did not organise the entire rally single-handed, and what she says does not represent
She's the
people.
official organiser.
And let me point out how he's misrepresented.
Point out facts, Kel.
Joe,
she is the official organiser. She is the
What does it mean to be an official organiser when you're such a disparate...
Well, hang on a sec, Joe. So can a committee of people... Is that what normally happens with the protest? If someone says, we're going to have a protest and they apply to it, is it like a group of 50 people with their names and addresses that are submitted? Or is it just someone who says, hey, I'm applying for this permit?
I don't know.
He's just making up shit.
Wait a moment,
the paperwork.
and let me
and
come
it's a
off
fake
it.
name, but she's the only official organiser.
I'm going to read the quote from the website. It says, quote, more Indians came to Australia in 5 years than Greeks and Italians in 100 years. The concern is about numbers, not source.
You said it wasn't about race,
what it's about.
Because that's an interesting one, because that was just a statement, and it didn't say we don't want more Indians. It didn't say... All it said was the fact, and and it just said March for Australia. I remember seeing that paperwork.
Yeah.
So let's see how Joe interprets that.
Okay.
You said it wasn't about race.
Okay, but listen. Why? Hang on a second.
And again, these are people organising and pushing it. They're not just the people who rocked up. People in charge.
Hang on, listen. Because of the numbers, it looked for what group came in large numbers. They were the numbers. We want to talk about numbers. We don't care about race. Indians, as it happens, because they grew up under a nation shaped by the British Raj, fit in very well, and they have excellent English, and they're wonderful
They
migrants.
didn't feel like they were fitting in very well.
I'm not convinced about the excellent English, but that's almost by the by.
It's controversial, but I believe they speak English, a dialect.
Okay.
And in PNG, they speak Pidgin English, which is dialect.
Okay.
But to say that they speak excellent English,
Yeah, that's a platitude. I think it's
just a generalisation that's completely untrue. Anyone that's had to communicate with them in any sort of length of time.
As a broad generalisation, there's plenty of Indian people that speak excellent English, but there's plenty who don't. So it's
and he's kind of saying that it's good that we preference them because they speak excellent English. But as I've said, most Europeans with any level of education speak excellent English.
Okay, but now we've got stuck in this fucking rabbit hole.
Yeah, let's get out of it.
Of race. Forget the fucking race issues. Mass immigration. It's the numbers that are causing the problem. I've said this so many times, I need to say it to our viewers right now. I know you have as well. I've lived all over the world. I've made great friends from all over the world, from every race, creed, culture, religion.
And worked with people from all over the world.
Work with them.
Live with them.
Have relationships with them.
The lot.
The lot, right? 99% of people are good people. Maybe even 99.5% are good people, right? The whole issue with this march, the whole issue with this rally was the rate of immigration to Australia is at historic and global absolute highs. We've got a housing crisis, we've got an infrastructure crisis, we've got a hospital crisis, we've got a building crisis, we've got every fucking crisis you can imagine. And dipwits like Joe keep telling us, migrants don't add to rental demand.
Well, the other thing too is pointing out that they're Indian is a fact, but nobody said it's bad that they're Indian.
No, yeah,
no
I know,
one's actually said that.
But credit, I understand that. But Joe's point, and it's not entirely baseless. He knows that there's a sentiment that when you say, there's so many Indian people coming to the country, it's like he's hearing a subtext that there's something wrong with Indian people.
Well,
and he's not entirely wrong there. You've got to acknowledge that.
Yeah, I guess my point is that if you say
it's a racism,
there's too many people coming to the country, right?
Yeah,
that's acceptable.
Yeah.
If all those people happen to be Indian, and you just add that there's too many Indian people coming to the country, the context is like the message is still there's too many people coming to the country. It's just adding the extra bit of information that they happen to be Indian.
But that's what Joe hears, and he thinks, all right, is there a subtext of racism and prejudice?
Well,
there?
He's turned that into
it's not entirely
anti-Indian.
There's not a seed of truth, and there is a seed of truth in what he says, right? There is a seed of truth. Now, it's a small part of a bigger picture, and I don't think that it creates the conclusion that he then gets to, that this is a racist rally, right? But you've got to acknowledge the truth that racism does exist in the world, right? And so he's not...
And let's just make one thing. Sorry, mate, I mean, to be clear. It exists, and it exists in every country, every culture, every community.
Yeah, but we're not justifying it. We're saying it exists, and Joe's not wrong to point it out, but it doesn't actually lead to the conclusion he gets to. It's part of the discussion. It needs to be addressed. And the best example of addressing his concern is a moment that this British fellow Constantine Kissin had on English TV years ago. Did you ever see this?
Oh, tell me, remind me, I might have.
So he's on a panel talking about the city of London, and somebody had said London doesn't feel like an English city anymore. And there's a couple of sort of woke leftists saying that's so racist. And there's Konstantin Kissin, who's a Russian Jew who came to England when he was a kid. And he was saying, well, it's not racist. London doesn't feel like an English city. And these people are like, oh, how dare you, how dare you? He's like, don't try that with me. I'm a brown-skinned Jew from Russia. Don't, accuse me of being racist. He said, and he made the example. He said, well, how about this? He said, if I walked through the city of London and I said, all these new Londoners, if they happen to be Scottish, not every other race that makes up London, if they all happen to be Scottish, I would say, you know what? This city feels less English and a whole lot more Scottish by virtue of the 50% of the population, which is Scottish. He said, would that be a legitimate statement to make? Or would that be racist against Scottish people? Because they're certainly white. Racially look the same to my eyes, to a brown-skinned Jew from Russia. They look white to me, but they're Scottish, so they're actually ethnically different. Am I allowed to say that London doesn't feel English anymore, it feels Scottish?
Well, and that brings another very valid point, is that well, pretty much every single person that we spoke with put a caveat in, I'm not racist. And
I'm not racist, but...
but the reality is that if 1.5 million English people had moved to Australia in the last, 18 months, and it was putting pressure on housing, it was putting congestion on the roads, it was making it impossible to get in to see a doctor, if it was having all the same effects that 1.5 million Indian people are having, people would still be upset, and I reckon they'd still be out in the street marching, saying, and especially if it was make it difficult for them to get a job, make it suppressing their wages, making the cost of living higher.
Joe's making the point that that would not be the case. He's saying that if it was 1.5 million white-skinned people from somewhere in the world, then you wouldn't have a problem with it, or you'd have a whole lot less problem with it. And the fact that it's not that cohort of white people, it's people from the subcontinent, then that's what causes you a bigger problem.
And can I just put an argument to counter Joe's theory?
Yeah.
The fact is that in the UK, they had a flood of Eastern Europeans who are white, who are Christian, who came into the country.
Under EU.
Large numbers when the EU opened up.
Okay.
And the British people were so upset about it that they voted to leave the EU to basically stop that, to stem that tide.
Okay.
So there's actually a case study there where it's true that it's not about the colour of the people. Like it's better to have people that integrate, for sure. But even so, once the numbers come in and they start affecting your standard of living, regardless of where they come from, people don't like it.
But see, the British can be prejudiced against Polish people the same way they can be prejudiced against someone with a different skin colour, no?
No, well, what I'm saying is they were prejudiced against them.
I see what you're saying. So they're prejudiced against anybody from outside coming in, whether they're religious or brown
Well, it wasn't
skin
about them coming in. It was because they were coming in large numbers and they were taking up exactly what's happening now. Taking up the housing, undercutting the British people for low-paying jobs.
I see.
Putting pressure on the public services.
I see.
All the same shit. It's just they weren't Indian. They were Polish.
I see.
But it had the same outcome.
Okay.
The people.
I take your point.
It affected their standard of living, and when they were asked to take a vote on whether they wanted to continue to go down that path, they said no.
Okay. Yep. I see your point.
Yeah. And as you say, immigration's a policy, but it would be nice to have a referendum, wouldn't it? Just to say, okay, well, how many people agree that we should just keep rates as they are?
You know what? I'd love to have a public policy debate, and if that leads to a referendum, great. But I don't think we've even had the public policy debate.
Well, what we've had politicians consistently lie, as we did at the last election, where Albo said he's going to bring the numbers down.
Yeah.
And then straight after this march, where people said, you haven't kept your promise, we want you to bring the numbers down, his Minister for Immigration came out and said, we're actually going to keep the numbers exactly the same.
Yeah. Interesting.
Anyway,
Interesting.
No one cares about that. What we care about
that. I do.
Joe.
Come on.
Hang on.
Joe. Very quickly, I'm just going to give the final word very quickly to Evelyn, and then we'll move on, because we could be here all night talking about this, but yes.
All I want to point out is that there is nothing wrong with having a national identity. And unfortunately, in Australia, we're having an identity crisis. Once upon a time, we knew what it meant to be an Australian. Today, there are plenty of Australians, including people who have migrated and assimilated here, who understood that. The point is, why can we not point out certain facts and certain truths without being called a racist? It is true. Everyone is allowed to have a homeland except for us, apparently. And there's nothing wrong with pointing out that we are taking in migrants at ungodly levels from countries that, unfortunately, in 2025 are finding a very hard time to assimilate to our Australian identity and our Australian culture. And it is not racist for pointing that out, because we will lose our home, we will lose our people, we will lose our culture, and that's sadly what's happening. And there's nothing wrong with saying, let's not have that.
To invite
Stop it. The left of violence.
Nice deflection, Joe. What has that question got to do with that statement?
It's a good sort of frame to try and distract from her statement. Yeah.
Well, it's
dishonest.
He's
disingenuous.
He's just not willing to engage in a debate about the facts.
No.
He's got his agenda and he's just going to push it no matter what.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, it's an interesting structure. This is Sky News, obviously. He's 1 against 4.
The thing that I find always interesting when I see these scenarios is the lady we just heard from has put forward her point of view.
Evelyn, right.
And she's put forward legitimate concerns. And I listen to all those things and I can't help but agree with it. Okay. Joe, I don't know, his only vested interest in this debate seems to be to win. It's not like he's trying to actually provide his own opinion, his own vision, his own reasons as to why she's wrong. He just wants to win.
When you say he wants to win, can I give a slightly different version of that?
Yeah. I might be wrong. That's how I'm interpreting it.
This show is called the Sunday Showdown. It's designed as a panel discussion of different political points of view and debates of the issues of the day. It's a right-wing Murdoch channel.
Yeah. Which coincidentally in the UK isn't right-wing.
I understand that, but this is Australia.
Same channel, different views.
4 out of 5 lean towards the conservative point of view on the issues of today, probably on all their issues. The producers say, what a boring show. We need somebody to take the counter-argument. So Joe is there to take the counter-argument. He's not there to actually find common ground or find truth or to find agreement. He's there to be a counterpoint to whatever they say. So this is the sad structure of these sort of forums.
Yeah, and interestingly, GB News do exactly the same thing.
Right.
And the bloke that they have is like Joe, where you sit there and you listen to his comments and you go, you don't believe that. You're just saying that.
Yeah.
You're just saying that so that, because otherwise you'd have to agree.
Yeah.
And you can't be seen to do that.
Well, yeah, that's it. And I've seen certain panels where there's a show on the YouTube, but it's a big US news show on YouTube called The Hill. And
I know you love that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a program on there.
She got sacked because she was what was she, pro-Israel?
Yeah, Brehanna Joe Gray or something.
Yeah.
She was the lefty of the panel, and her counterpart,
little nerd with the glasses.
Yeah. He was the conservative, libertarian. And Brianna Joy Gray is her name. She was the most listenable, interesting, compelling lefty I've encountered in my entire life, because she wouldn't do what Joe's doing and simply, here's the counter narrative and I'm going to spout it out, which is what he's doing, which is what Brianna Joy Gray's successors are doing after she got sacked. She would actually engage with every point that her co-host made and in a constructive, deeply thoughtful way answer them. She wasn't afraid to find common ground. She wasn't afraid to actually agree. But every time she did, she had enough brains, enough depth to actually say, I totally agree with you there, and I can explore the issue and present my point of view here in a compelling way, in a reasonable way.
I remember exactly that she was never confrontational.
And she was never confrontational.
I never, I almost didn't know she was the left-wing half of that troop, to be honest, when I watched it.
Even though she's expressing left-wing ideas, but she was so reasonable about it.
Yeah.
Well, she's reasonable, She wasn't trying to shove anything down your throat. She was like, this is the logic. And you're like, oh, well, that makes sense.
And obviously that format didn't gel, didn't get enough clicks, so they replaced it with this format.
What do you mean, this format?
Well, where you've just got Joe, who's actually got
no diss against Joe. I'm sure he's a pretty smart man, but Brianna Joy Gray is fucking genius level.
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Well, let's keep going because I think this is like an edited version because that lady with the blonde hair, she had a lot to say as well.
Okay,
but we'll see where it goes.
The left are more violent than anyone.
We've got to move on.
About calling for violence.
Joe, we've got to move on. There was no violence there today. I have to say that it was so easy.
And so
it was so easy to find people of migrant background there that Channel 9 managed to do it.
There was a guy with an accent doing an interview.
I'll show you quickly.
We managed to find one.
These are how hard do you reckon it was? Some vox pops taken at the rally today.
We're not a racist country. We just want a good calibre of people in here.
Love migration, okay? I'm from a family of immigrants as well. The point is, how many you bring in the country? Where do you house them?
Yeah, well, there we go. That sums it up.
And it's a wrap.
Okay. Thanks, Senor Blanco. Until next time.
Donata.